49ers State of the Franchise is back, and we are back after a dub, the first dub of the season against the Jets. We'll talk about our big takeaways from that game. Obviously, we've talked about it already, but we'll kind of wrap it up and then gives us an opportunity to preview this upcoming game against the Vikings and how the 49ers can roll in to Minnesota, hopefully get their first win in over 2 decades now. So we'll see how it's going to go, but a lot of stuff to talk about. Drop your spicy sourdoughs in the chat and let's get after it. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now. What is going down, Mr. Aponte? What are the vibes like over there on the East Coast as we kick off State of the Franchise?
Jets fans aren't really happy. I'll say that. But other than that, it's great. The weather's nice. It's in the 70s. And after a weekend of stress-free football, you get into Monday Night Football, and the 49ers give you a stress-free win. So couldn't ask for anything more. But obviously, the task at hand is winning the first game since 1992 in Minnesota somehow.
1992 since the 49ers have went into, well, I guess it's a new stadium now, but still went into that area and come away with the W. So we'll talk about some of the things that we are going to see from the Vikings and how we think the 49ers come away with that dub. But before we get into that, what were some of your bigger takeaways from that win against the Jets?
A lot of the talk was around the offensive line, and the offensive line was incredible. Now, if you want to attribute that to week one and rust or Hassan Reddick didn't play, okay, maybe I can listen to that. But watching the film and just watching how these guys, and in particular, Dominic Pooney, obviously, but as a unit, right? And we always talk about the cascading effect of one player to the next. And it seems like it's having an effect with Pooney on McKivitz. And Trent Williams comes back and he plays every single snap. And depending on who you ask, if you ask PFF, it was one pressure. If you ask Next Gen Stats, it was 0 pressures. He still looked damn good for somebody who hasn't been able to, participate in anything all offseason. But I think the offensive line is one. The defensive line, the thing that I look at is Leonard Floyd looks phenomenal in that role opposite of Nick Bosa. It was the two of them. 9 of the 11 pressures were theirs combined. So this could possibly be, and obviously you don't want to overreact to week one, the best running mate that he's had on the other side of him as far as being solid and continuing. And, people are scared, including Aaron Rodgers, to throw the football at Mooney Ward. I think we've all seen the throw chart. And for the most part, Mooney Ward was on the right side. The ball never went that way. But I did see the Jets try some cool things with putting 3 guys on the left side and Mooney Ward kicking all the way inside with Lenore inside of him and Yadam on the outside. The 49ers are as versatile as it gets when it comes to whatever it is you're going to throw at them. So, yeah, Mooney Ward. And also Fred Warner is really good as well, too. I think we should throw that out there as well, too. Yeah.
He's okay, right? He's okay at ball. Yeah. Yeah, you touched on a lot of the big takeaways from that game. Obviously, the offensive line, man, it looks so much better with Dominic Pooney in at right guard. We've beaten it to like a dead horse on this channel, just talking about O-line continuity and consistency up front and how it makes the whole group look better. Big fan of Spencer Burford and his traits and everything he brings to the table, but up until obviously this switch, there's just a lack of consistency.
I will say this real quick, Brad. I didn't want to cut you off, but Spencer Burford relief pitching for Aaron Banks. He might be at home on the left side a little bit longer. And our friend Jordan Elliott wrote an article in which he spoke to Burford and he talked about how easy it was to step in. And now, is there a possibility that if Aaron Banks leaves, that you're okay with moving Spencer Burford permanently for cheap over the left guard?
I think there's a chance. I honestly felt like we've talked about this before. The Pooney draft pick was kind of the Banks replacement. And maybe there's a situation where they, instead of swapping the two, they actually just put Spencer Burford at left guard and keep Pooney at right guard. But watching Pooney inserted into the lineup and play as well as he has, I mean, the fact that he is getting his first career start and he's the second best offensive lineman on the roster right now is crazy, right? So he's only going to improve. He's only going to get better. You talked about McKivitz. You know, McKivitz wasn't perfect on the day, and I think I've said this almost every time. There's going to be 2 or 3 reps, most likely in pass blocking situations, where he's going to struggle. And other than that, he's going to do pretty darn good. He's going to hold up. He's going to do his job. He's going to win his rep. Might not be the prettiest thing in the world, but he's going to do his job. And so that's exactly what we got. And he held up pretty well. He actually had, I think, one of the sickest blocks out of anyone on the offensive line versus that game, where he takes out 2 on a crucial play that Deebo Samuel scores. If he doesn't take out 2, linebacker, I think it was Quincy Williams, was going to destroy Deebo Samuel. Deebo didn't see him coming. He cut right up field, and Quincy had this angle where he would have came in at full speed and lit Deebo up. But without Colton McKivitz taking 2, that Deebo might be a little bit extra sore coming up. But honestly, the offensive line played pretty solid. I would say if I had any critiques of anyone particularly, it would be Jake Brendel. I did see Jake Brendel struggle at a majority of the time. Now, it wasn't all the time. He was able to win on, I think, a couple getting to backer, getting to second level, getting some seal blocks. He did well in some certain instances, but I would say for the most part, it was a rough one for Brendel. So if Brendel can get up to speed and or they can continue to work on that position, it'll be really interesting to see how this offensive line and what it will look like at the end of the season. But so far, first game with Trent Williams not practicing at all in the offseason and coming in and doing what Trent Williams does, it was a really nice to see from the 49ers offensive line. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the funny part is they're improved one way or another. How much they've improved, now that's what we're going to find out this season. Funny enough, PFF before week 1, they put out their offensive line rankings, and they ranked the San Francisco 49ers 24th. But that was under the caveat that John Feliciano was going to be playing right guard, and Trent Williams, we didn't know if he was going to be there, right? Like, so now when you look at their going into week 2 positional rankings, hold on to your hat, Brad Graham. The San Francisco 49ers are ranked top 10. Now, does that mean that that's going to continue? We don't know, but they're certainly improved. And I think this week is going to present such an interesting test, because a little bit of the stuff that I was really, really impressed with Pooney, aside from the fact that he was just stonewalling people and everything as well, too, is the communication on the stunts and being very good at understanding what's coming at him and knowing where to be. And it always seems like when 49er fans describe the offensive line issues, it's less of just always getting whipped and always in these big moments communication issues. If you just stand there and just go into your spot, even if you get beat, you can still slow that defender down. If those can start to go away, then you start to feel better about the chances. So we're going to find out how improved they are, because Minnesota really poses an interesting test with how Brian Flores and his defense gets after it with the blitz. Are they going to be able to communicate fast enough? What's going to happen when guys get left on islands? This is, in my opinion, the Jets probably have a better defense than the Vikings, and I think they will, if they ever get Hassan Reddick back, obviously. But the style of defense that the Vikings are going to present probably presents more of a challenge, less than it does talent-wise, because of the way that Brian Flores likes to mix up his blitzes, exotic, bring them from different places, show someone on this side, mug them over the middle, bring someone from the left. The communication is going to be very key. So this is an interesting game for the offensive line because it presents a bigger challenge, whether the talent isn't there because of the scheme.
Yeah, and talking about the communication up front and the way they played and how that looks so much better. It was funny. Chris Forrester just talked about it before the game. He comped Pooney to Trent Williams and work done. And I saw a bunch of the comments like when I had made the post. Is he comparing an offensive lineman to a running back? It's like, no, if you paid attention to what was being said, he is comping him to understanding ball early. This is a very complicated game, and playing offensive line is a very difficult position because you have to make so many snap decisions in 0.3 seconds. I think we were even talking about like that reaction time on last week's show, and you see it. That's why Pooney blocks too. That's why Pooney is able to take the correct angles, do the things that he needs to do with what's being presented in front of him, and it shores up the whole offensive line as a result, and they all look better as a result of that. So obviously the thing with Pooney is consistency. We can talk about one game and how good he was in one game, and he really was phenomenal, but it's what does he look like in week 2, week 3, week 4, and the entire body of work. So that's the next thing with Pooney. But again, Jason, looking at training camp, looking at preseason, looking at week 1, he's been the same the whole way through. We haven't seen a drop off yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Every dog has his day, right? Everyone gets got. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. But if I was a betting man, I would say this is going to be a trend that we continue to see in regards to Pooney playing well. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to see how this offensive line continues and the offensive group in general. And again, no Christian McCaffrey, Jason, and you had the Jordan Mason breakout party. There's also another party that was associated with that, but I think I want to get your thoughts on that. What was your thoughts on the big deal that was supposedly made about Jordan Mason saying when he thought he heard he was going to play and all that stuff?
I don't care. and the idea that anybody thought the 49ers would be fined for probably doing what 31 other teams do when there's a guy that's close to playing and they just and good on the 49ers. Let's think about it like this. Let's say the 49ers actually planned for Christian McCaffrey to go out there and they watched him, warm up or they got through the weekend and they said, "You know what, man? I don't think we should run him out there." Oh, no, clutch your pearls. You're a fantasy football player. So what? Oh, no, clutch your pearls. You're a betting man. Well, guess what? If you put down a Christian McCaffrey anytime bet, you got refunded. What are you crying about? What are you crying about? And the team has to do what's best for them. So who cares? Seriously, there's no chance that they can be fined. This is absolutely blown out of proportion. And after a game in which the 49ers beat the New York Jets from pillar to post, shout out Jets gang, I knew you wouldn't be here today. Rest in peace. This is what people want to get upset about? Nah, man. Come on. I don't care. Who cares?
No, well said. Because that was like I wasn't understanding what was going on because I actually found out about all of it through my chat after the game because I was at the game. And so I was kind of slow to like understand what was happening. But even after understanding what was happening, you're like, well, again, rationalize it. They tried to test Christian McCaffrey out pre-game. They didn't feel comfortable with it. And Jason, it's week 1. This team has aspirations of playing deep into the playoffs. So it doesn't make sense to put their best player who has been a workhorse in a bad spot just for the sake of, well, it's week 1 and we got to make sure our fantasy and our pick'em guys are all good and the parlays are intact. That's not their goal. That's not what they're trying to accomplish.
And Brad, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, that's more than enough to beat the horrible Jets. You don't need Christian McCaffrey to get this one done. Why would you even risk it? And now let's all right. Now let's be rational. Short week, travel to Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be on turf. Jordan Mason has shown that he's capable. Again, if Christian McCaffrey misses week 2, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Aiyuk, Jordan Mason, Brock Purdy, more than enough to beat the Minnesota Vikings. Everyone talks about how many all-pros does this offense need? Well, how many all-pros do they need? 4 is fine. We'd like 5. 4 is fine. 4 is fine. 4 is fine to me. I don't get it. What's the need to rush Christian McCaffrey when you didn't need Christian McCaffrey to beat the New York Jets and you don't need Christian McCaffrey to beat the Minnesota Vikings? I'd say the conversation would be much more dire if the 49ers didn't beat the Jets without Christian McCaffrey. Like, that's the part that we'd literally be sitting here like, wow, this team is really in trouble. Like, right. It never would have gotten there. So how many all-pros do the 49ers need? 4 is fine. 4 is fine. 4 will do. Fine. 4 and one is getting up to speed. 4 will do.
Yeah. So it was crazy, and shout out to JP, man. He had a day. He's currently second in the NFL in rushing behind, I think, Mixon, who had a stellar coming out party. We'll get to we'll do our fantasy segment at the end of the show, like it's been requested. But Jordan Mason filled in just like we've all expected. You know, I think if you've been in the 49ers universe, you understand that Jordan Mason is a capable back. So I don't think any of us were really too caught off guard by it because it was the first time he had got ample opportunity. He's been behind Christian McCaffrey, who has been a workhorse RB1, offensive player of the year, all those different types of things, right? So it all makes sense. And it doesn't the word that you use all the time, Jason, it doesn't behoove the 49ers to risk injury to a guy like Christian McCaffrey if they don't feel 100%. It just doesn't make sense. And like you said, they got some other good players on this team, so I think they're going to be just fine. So, I mean, we're getting reports right now. I'm seeing it. Christian McCaffrey back out on the practice field based on the videos. He looks like he's participating just like everyone else. So, again, we'll monitor the situation all the way up until game time just because of the surprise that we got last week. But the trends are appearing that he could be playing this week. So we'll see. I'm not going to go out on any limb this time.
Christian, I know you're not watching because you're at practice. Take the week off, man. Just chill out, bro. I know you want to play football. Let's relax. Again, if the 49ers can't beat the Vikings without just Christian McCaffrey, when you have Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, George Kittle, Jordan Mason running the football, Trent Williams, a left tackle, we've got bigger things to discuss. Christian, make the trip, ice the leg, don't get out there. Because, funny enough, yeah, I know, I saw that too. I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty funny. You were like, I'm going right away. Like, when I was like, okay. But you have turf in Minnesota, you have turf in Los Angeles right after that, and then you can get back to grass. You know, maybe you think about 1 or 2 weeks of this just to play it safe because the 49ers can absolutely beat the Vikings and the Rams without Christian McCaffrey.
I did like what he said about playing on grass or turf. What did he say? He's like, oh, you're basically not a football player if you can't play on either. So I don't think he's looking at it that way. I think it is a consideration that maybe they'll, if it's not feeling right, obviously don't put them out there. It's not worth it because we know turf can be grabby. That's the drawback of the turf is it can. The thing with
it doesn't give.
Yeah, natural grass is those cleats slide out. If you get caught in the turf, it pulls. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen with CMC. You okay?
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm just laughing.
I was looking off to the side, so I just heard it.
The Rams will get that W week 3.
Oh,
you have about 3 healthy members of your team at this point. So Godspeed, please, Godspeed, and also, you know, pull back up to the post game show when y'all get smoked because I don't like when people disappear after they pop all that mess.
Oh no, he won't come back. I don't know if I've seen Rod around these parts before, so I doubt we'll see him.
My bad. Akello Weatherspoon's back, so my fault. Like we're in deep trouble. Akello Weatherspoon's back, so that's it.
Savior.
Parade back on with the Rams.
Ryan Reed said Fred and Jordan Mason had Jets fans crashing out. Jets fans, they're on the watch list of how to handle this situation, because the 49ers, they gave it to them.
Well, not over here. Any Jets fans from here, all of them are just like, yeah, we know. Any rational Jets fan that I spoke to here didn't think that their team was going to beat they didn't walk up to me and say, you're in trouble on Monday, buddy, at the bar, like when I was wearing my Niners hat, like you're so in trouble. No. We have a few vagabonds and people who run in the comments and are talking crazy or whatever, but that's not the majority of Jets fans. They never thought once that this was going to be a victory. So they're chilling. They're not that bad. But if you guys didn't see, I was able to catch the first crash out of the season in a New York Jets space. And it was from a New York Jets fan who actually went to Levi's and was losing his mind. I would implore you guys to go through the timeline and talk about how 49er fans were just roasting him, how he's so sick of this team, fire Saleh, get rid of everybody. He said the next time that he travels to a game, he hopes to see a win. But he said he thinks that the only place that he can travel that the Jets might find a win is in Singapore. Absolute hilarious crash out. I implore everybody to go look at
it. Gammon Brown. 5 Jason Aponte memberships. That's dope. You love to
five Spicy Squad memberships. Get them while they're hot. Let's go.
That's dope. Let's get to a super chat while we're at it. Yep. He says, Gammon Brown, every year this team has a 2-game skid. When is this year's?
Probably in that weird group of playoff games at the end of the year, or when it really starts to get hot against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Green Bay and Bills are the first.
Green Bay, Bills, Lions, that little like area, depending on
road game,
right,
away in
cold,
the winter, don't know what the conditions are going to be like. That kind of feels like the potential 2 games.
Right now, I don't have too many reservations about there being some weird games now, because watching that game back and seeing the plays that were missed, still this is still week 1 and still an extension of the preseason. And yes, the 49ers put up 32 points, but there was so much more there. There was so much more there for them, and they absolutely could have scored 50 points easy if they were rolling. So in my opinion, I think when we get to like week 3, week 4, and Aiyuk's up to speed and the offensive line is gelling more, provided there's no injuries, I think you're going to start to see them really kick it into gear. It's just down the stretch. You're just going to figure out where you are health-wise, how the 49ers have done navigating those, injuries, who they are too, and what the depth looks like. But as of right now, you look at week 1, that's not the 49ers peaking. That's the 49ers getting their footing, and there's still much more to be done. And I think they would tell you the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had 6 Jake Moody field goals, Jason. The NFC special teams player
of
the week.
Hey. Scott Fishbowl 2-0 because of 33 Jake Moody points. Nothing but respect for my GOAT. It's 3 points per field goal, 3 points per extra point, and if it's a 21-yard field goal, it's 2.1. 33 points, the highest scorer on my team, while I put up the second highest points in my division. Nothing but respect for my GOAT.
Jake Moody coming through, franchise kicker. You love to see it. So that's awesome. So we've hit on pretty much. Let's talk about the holdout. The holdout kid, Brandon Aiyuk. What were your thoughts on his performance, and how do you think that is going to last?
No. And again, it was obviously going to be some sort of snap count, right? But I did find it interesting that Brad, when we were talking about who would play the X if Brandon Aiyuk didn't see the field, that it would be Chris Conley. But Jawan Jennings could play X. No. Chris Conley is your X. Your X behind Brandon Aiyuk. He was the one who rotates in. He can have the speed. Right. But look, everybody's going to have something to say because of the drop. So, first of all, the first Sauce Gardner play, that's a PBU.
Yeah,
it's a PBU. And that's not him dropping the football. It is his arm, and it's a last moment thing, which Sauce is one of the best, if not the best. Ripped it out.
It's great.
Now, I know you want him to catch that. Great. But then there's the absolute Brock Purdy dime in the end zone. And as soon as they didn't come down with it, I was like, oh, baby, there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset with this one. Me, in my mind, it didn't bother me as much because we were rolling against the Jets. And let's face it, after the Jets gained the lead in that game was never close. So it just got away from them. I thought it would get away from them later in the game. It got away from them much earlier. So it was of no consequence. But, man, there are a lot of people that said, man, you did all that for $30 million. You better come down with that. And I just said, hey, I'm going to let people talk. I don't have that opinion, but I understand exactly why people are saying that.
Yeah. So my thing with Aiyuk is you would have loved to see him come down with that catch, right, in the end zone with Purdy. Purdy threw an absolute dime.
Yes.
But hey, it happens. That's why the whole time I think both you and I were like, just get him into camp.
Mm-hmm.
Just get him into camp. That's all we want. Just get him in. Because man, we now have enough of a track record of understanding that if you miss camp, you can be a little rusty. So
hey, don't tell out to Trent Williams.
Well, yeah, true. He's a freak, though. He's not human. He's subhuman. So Trent is amazing because he didn't have any rust. He looked phenomenal. He looked like Trent. But let's talk about the defense a little bit. What were some of the things you've seen from the defense, and what do you think of this new revamped defensive line as a whole? Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd. Obviously, we didn't even see Yetur Gross-Matos. He's back at practice, all those different types of things. What's kind of your thoughts going with that?
Well, it looks like Nick Bosa's got a running mate because on top of Leonard Floyd being just a veteran with an insane motor, and you saw it pop up on tape, right? Like he's literally running down, running Breece Hall when he's stuffed up on the line. I do want to talk about the run defense because, don't look now. That looks really good. But Malik Collins looked very good in this game. But essentially with the pass rush, when you have games where Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa are going to have 85-90% of the pressures, you're probably doing something right. Malik Collins looked great in the run game, obviously recovered the fumble. Just need a little bit more from Javon Hargrave. And again, we're trying to get this all moving in the right direction. But early returns on the defensive line look good in this game, especially with the reinforcements coming and the fact that, Hargrave can definitely step it up and play a little bit better as well, too. So I feel great about this defensive line, and the run defense looked really, really good, man.
I'm still working through the tape, but I mean, the first play, Leonard Floyd it was beautiful. He timed the snap count to the point where he started coming down the line.
And Conklin had his head turned this way, and when he looked back, he was already by him.
Yep. 100%. I've been running it back.
Let's do it
right here. So you got Leonard Floyd over here, and just like you're talking about, he's keying on the snap count probably because of the noise, right?
Conklin.
In the stadium of Conklin, and then you see the timed snap count. So this is tape study, right? Because Leonard Floyd sees this pre-snap motion. He believes already that the play is going to that side. Mm-hmm. So he crashes down and just comes down the line and just absolutely beautiful. And you see the celebration right there just on the first play of the game. And
that's also him being a former Bill and facing the Jets a bunch. Like obviously the cadence changes with Rodgers, but it's still like the same ideas. Like he was moving before anything. I mean, if there was a way to false start on the defensive line, that would be it. But there is no false start. He just moved at the right time.
Yeah, and it's like I get it. I don't break down the defense as much as I do the offense, but I'm like, man, I can't remember a 49ers defensive end like jumping the play like that to the point where he knew already. I mean, obviously, look at the linebackers and the safeties and Demo. They're all sliding with the pre-snap motion, but so did Floyd, and it put him in a amazing position to beat that block. I was like, oh, okay, all right,
and
I like this.
And another thing is, so much of the run defense that the 49ers struggle with, and what was effective against them was in Green Bay and Detroit with the tosses, outside tosses, right? And there's the crack toss in particular was killing them, like and it just felt like they didn't have an answer under Steve Wilkes. And then all of a sudden this year, you get Nick Bosa flying out and basically sealing the edge, and now all of a sudden Fred Warner gets a free shot. Those things are the things that people were going to try to take advantage of because they saw it work, in the postseason when the 49ers struggled with run defense. That was all cleaned up in this game. And I feel like Breece Hall did have the rushing touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, but you get Fred punching out the ball and everything as well, too. It never really felt like the Jets ever really could get a rhythm running the football. And then when the score gets out of hand, then you can't run the football anymore. But for 1 week, that run defense already looks better than everything that we saw last year.
Absolutely. We didn't talk about Juice. What were your thoughts on Juice?
Oh man, Kyle Shanahan is a snippy person. So I forget who it was that asked at the press conference.
It was Branch.
Okay, Eric Branch. Was that new? Was that a new play? And he's like, "What are you new here?" And it's hilarious.
It's absolutely hilarious.
It's hilarious because how many years have we broken down that stock rail route, and Jimmy overthrows it and throws it into the stands? Or
I think of the
Nick Mullins one against the Eagles.
I think of the 2019 him diving and making that snag on that.
Oh, against Seattle.
No, it's against Pittsburgh 2019.
Yeah, so all right, Pittsburgh. My bad. So you've got that one. You've got the one against the Rams in 2020 in which he threw it and Kyle throws his hands down. There's the Jimmy G one in Tennessee. Like this is the Tennessee. This is me off of the top of my head giving you examples.
Right.
2019 against the Seattle Seahawks in the clincher. Right, in the clincher with the Dre Greenlaw stop, when they needed a big play, they went to rail. And so Kyle is so hilarious, man, because he didn't have to do that. He could have just said, no, that's something that's in our playbook. And he's just like, what are you new here? And it's so crazy because this is a media member. You're a media member.
Long time. He's been there the whole time.
Right.
Kyle's been there the whole time.
Why is it that we all like pointed the screen like Leo, like, oh, stop rail. There it is. They hit it. Oh. Here's another example. 2020, Nick Mullins against the Eagles, like the second play of the game. Kyle Juszczyk's running by himself, and he throws it into the stands, basically. And it would have been a touchdown. Why is it that I can remember all of these? And it's just like, oh, that's new. No, it's not. It's not.
No, that was pretty funny. That as like the question was coming out, I was like, oh no.
And Kyle's like, what do you do? What do you do here, bro? I was like, yo, Kyle, you did not have to do that at all. Like, you could have just let it slide, man, but you didn't have to cook him like that.
Type something into Google or something to pull that up. Like, if that's happened before.
Yeah, you can. Put Kyle Juszczyk wide open, missed throw. Let's see how many of those pop up, because it's going to be a bunch, and it's been happening since 2020.
No, it really was Rich Madrid energy.
Oh, yeah.
He's basically like, watch the tape.
You're
like, go watch the tape, pal.
It's
like,
crazy that
it's right there in front of you. You should know the answer to that.
It's crazy how many of the media members, and not everybody. It's crazy how many of the media members have no idea what they're looking at. And that's what's crazy, is because a media member will put out an article saying, oh, this player needs to improve and do this, and that. Based on what? How did you get to this conclusion? Just, what, production? Or are we like, this is what I want for all 49ers media members, just a little bit more understanding of some of the concepts and some of the game. Like, it's not, I don't need you to be able to point out everything, because Brad, as hard as you and I work when it comes to looking at this stuff, there's definitely times where I'm just like, I have to ask someone else, where I'm like, dude, I thought it was this is what I'm looking at. Like, I don't, and someone will say, I go to people that I trust so I can learn. I think that the media members just need to know a little bit more about that type of stuff, because that question was completely avoidable.
It was. And again, like me, I break down tape every single week. I'm probably not the scheme guy that you want to come ask me questions about what the name is of that and what does, I'm a technique guy. I like to break down individual. It allows me to look at the game in a different perspective. But just like as we know, and I know you do a ton of research along with a lot of the guys that we mess with, it's a lot of work to figure out the scheme aspect of it. And even so, we're still kind of questioning, like, is this really what we're seeing? A lot of the times we can identify exactly what we're looking at. For me, it's offensive line technique. I know what offensive line technique I'm looking for and what it means and what they're trying to accomplish, outside zone, inside zone versus gap scheme. Like I can break that stuff down, but and we can call out simple formations and things like that. But the question was coming out, and I was like, oh no, stop while you're ahead. And
it's just like
Kyle that, man. Don't ask
Kyle did it with like a smirk on his face, like, I'm about to cook this dude. Like, just like, come on, man. You look, pick and choose your spots. When someone asks you something really dumb, like that was like affecting a game, like, or like something that then like go into like that stuff, I felt like, while I got a chuckle out of it, he could have let Eric Branch live just a little bit on that one.
I mean, he'll recover. I think they like to I know Kyle pokes fun at Branch all the time, just for whatever reason. They have that type of relationship. So
that's one of the few media members I've never met.
I've never met him either.
Well, he doesn't go to the combine. He doesn't go to the draft. He doesn't go to what's the other one, like the Senior Bowl. He doesn't go to like any of those things. For the most part, it's always like Lombardi, Mayoko, Jennifer Lee Chan, Barrows, like those guys that usually travel. I don't, and Mike Silver, I've met him too. Mm-hmm. He doesn't travel. Like, he's the only one that I've never met, I think.
I think you're right. I don't think he does travel, or at least to those off-season
those events. Well, that's really what we get access to at this point right now. So like that's the only reason I bring up those things.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it was pretty funny. And again, it just lighthearted stuff. Again, it's football, right? I think it's. Do you ever think about it sometimes, Jason? How we treat football sometimes, or like the tone about football is so serious sometimes.
Yeah,
and it's just like at the end of the day, it's like. Does anyone ever take a step back and just be like, dude, we're talking ball. Like, we're talking like the thing with Jordan Mason and CMC. Everyone got so upset, yoking up on the timeline like, this is a final ball of the rabble. Like, it was just like, dude, it's football, man. Like, they're going to do whatever's best for them in their best interest. They're not worried about you and your parlay. And I get it. It's a part of the fandom, but it's like, just chill, relax. This is football. It's a game. Like, chill out, man.
You know that I get a little hot blooded, but that game, but that game was a breeze.
I know
that game was a breeze. It felt like every time Mason touched the ball, he was about to score. It felt like every time that the Jets had the ball, they had no shot of doing anything. That was one of the least tension-filled home openers I've ever seen. Like, after a game like that, there's no way that I'm going to highlight anything negative when so much, if not everything, was positive.
Right.
So I think, again, it's person to person. Some people are overly optimistic. Some people are pessimistic. Some people are realistic. But the people that want to be mad are going to be mad regardless of whatever the outcome is. The 49ers won 48-10. We should have scored 56. If the 49ers win 32-29, why do we play the Jets so tough and so close? Dude, yes, we all get like that. And I like to be serious because I'm trying to, build credibility by trying to, understand everything. But my God, man, it's just like, what? No notes. Like, I had no notes. No notes at all when it comes to like, hey, what do the 49ers need to improve? No notes. We're fine. Everything's going to be fine. Like, it's done. Like, like, my God.
It was all minor things. It was super minor.
Super minor.
It came down to consistency. That's really what it was for pretty much everything that we saw. So, yeah, it's important to remind ourselves that this is a game and it's supposed to be enjoyable. It's not supposed to be something like there's enough other things going on in the world that can make you angry and make you upset. It's like this is supposed to be our escape from those things. This is the toy department, right? We get to talk ball for a living, and it's really just that. And one thing too, Jason, we've done this long enough that you're 100% guaranteed going to be wrong about something.
Oh,
It doesn't matter
well,
if you're the greatest football mind in the world.
look,
You're going to
look,
be wrong about something.
look. The funniest thing is about being called out about like being wrong, right? Okay. When you're in the business of giving a take every single week, every single day,
Everything, on literally everything.
it's so easy for everyone else to be like, "Hi, you got this one wrong." Well, I want to see you get up on the screen. I want to see you give all your opinions. I want to see you take accountability for when you don't get it right, because you're not going to get it right every single time. And the reason that we enjoy being right is because it's not easy to be right, especially when you come to a conclusion that isn't something that's super easy, right? You don't get a victory lap for saying, "Oh, the San Francisco 49ers are going to beat the Jets." I think we all knew that. You don't get any brownie points for that. But if you say, "I think Jordan Mason's going to go for 28 rushes and 100 something yards and a tug," and you're right, then enjoy that. But I just love the people that love to call out what you were wrong about when you don't give opinions on everything and no one's checking for what you have gotten right or wrong about. So,
And listen, sometimes there are really bad takes and they
yeah,
kind of deserve to be highlighted as such.
yeah.
But not every take is a bad take. Not every take is a great take. It's the nature of the beast. And it's just funny how we watch people lose their minds on. I would say depends on what social platform you're on, too. But it's always fun to watch. Gammon says, "I know that both of you have kids and are full-time professionals. If you could be a degenerate for 24 hours, what show would you binge watch and why?" I'm sure you
You
have
go
an answer
first.
to this.
Nah,
I'm
you
sure
go
you
first.
have
You know that I've got to set
well,
up
I
in
need to
the
think
chamber.
about my answer
Oh,
because I'm a degenerate football fan, so that's
yeah.
my show that I binge watch.
If football's not on the menu or anything like that, or if I'm not gonna, watch, some great 49ers games that I remember, from different years, I would probably say Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I don't really think that that's much of
Yeah,
a shock. Like
that's
that
not
feels
a
like
shock at all.
the layup. Yeah, yeah. It does not. It is. I mean, when I'm in here writing or I'm cutting clips like to put together like for stuff like that, like it's usually on in the background. So yeah, it's probably gonna be Curb.
Ugh. Honestly, if I had 24 hours to disengage, I'm binge watching something football related or I'm doing something football related. I'm a degenerate football person. I really don't watch that many shows. But one that I think is always bingeable is The Office. Obviously,
Yeah.
that one's really easy. I really do like watching Eastbound and Down quite a bit.
Oh my god, I love that show.
The League, I've gone back a couple times to watch The League. Never gets
Hmm.
old. It's
I
still
just did that right
hilarious
before all
every
my fantasy
single
drafts.
time. Exactly. So there are a couple shows out there. Like I've been meaning to actually go back and binge Breaking Bad because I haven't watched it in a couple years. So I want to
Incredible
go
show.
back, watch that. But I've told you, Jason, like I never got into Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Honestly, ever since I started this journey of content creation, I don't watch shows. Literally, I spend on average of 14 to 16 hours a day working, and it's all football related. And when the time I'm done with it, like I spend my free time breaking down tape because I can't do tape. I can't do film breakdowns or like breakdown tape during the day. If I do, it takes up my whole day, and I can't do other content. So I have to. It's a balance. So I really don't watch. I'm not up to speed on new shows, stuff like that. So, but uh, there's some classics though. If you had to pick one movie to watch, what movie would that be?
Man, That's so hard because I don't have a favorite movie because I have so many favorite
So many.
movies.
It's such a loaded question.
Probably Whiplash. That movie just resonates with me just based on the message, the
Who's in that?
acting. J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. It's about
Know
the
that.
jazz band, and he's just like he's berating Miles Teller the entire time. Like, he's like a tyrant. But like as you get through the movie, you start to really understand what he's going for, and he talks about the biggest opposition to great is the word good. Meaning, you know how many greats were, trying and trying, and he says if someone is there and teaching him, and they're like, oh, good job, man, you did all right, you know, they'll say, oh, thanks. He goes, but I don't do that because I want to push you to be great. Great. The idea is to be great. He goes, you want to be one of the best? He was like, good is going to be the biggest thing that's in your way. Oh, I did good. Oh, it's okay. Like he's got a method to his madness, and the music's phenomenal. Just the way it's shot. It's a movie that just goes as quickly. Like, it doesn't drag in any moment. But I can watch it at any time, especially when I need some motivation.
Yeah, I like watching a lot of comedy, pretty much anything with Will Ferrell. Have you seen my wife thinks I'm crazy because I love this movie. It's Eurovision, the one with Will Ferrell and what's her name? It's it's on like Netflix or something like that. It's Will Ferrell who like he enters the Eurovision Song Contest as like some Swedish. Have you never seen? Oh, dude, I don't know why. I freaking love that movie. I watch it all the time. My wife's like, why do you like this movie so much? I'm like, I have no idea. It's so good. You need to watch it.
We've all got movies like that.
There was a what was the movie last week that we talked about that you didn't? Oh, How to Train Your Dragons.
I've never seen that. Never seen that.
That one? That's a good one.
Never seen that.
Should we talk some fantasy or do we, oh wait, we didn't even talk about the Vikings.
The Vikings,
The Vikings, though that pesky team that's coming up. What's kind of your overall thoughts on them?
Well, Sunday was a cool day because I got to be able to go to my local bar and watch football with everybody else. But unfortunately, when you live in the area that I live in, the New York Giants are probably going to be taking the biggest part of the bar and the bigger screens. And I know we're all football junkies. I know that there's times in the offseason where we're like, man, I can't wait to watch any game, anybody. And then sometimes they give you Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold to watch. The Giants are really bad. Let's start there. The Giants are really bad. Daniel Jones is ungood right now. I mean, he has more pick sixes than touchdown passes since he signed the contract that he signed following the season in which they beat Minnesota in the playoffs. You get wrapped up in the numbers, and the two highest graded passers in week one, Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, and somewhere Kyle Shanahan smiling and shedding a tear. But all of those throws and everything with Kevin O'Connell and the way that they run their offense is all on quick game. They're going to run the football. They've certainly upgraded a running back. Aaron Jones looks 300 times better than Alexander Madison did last year. He looks great, but this still has to be a 49ers win. Again, the biggest matchup to watch is the Brian Flores blitzing defensive line defense and everything that he's going to throw at this offensive line and how they'll deal with that. Other than that, everything that Kevin O'Connell placed in front of Sam Darnold on Sunday afternoon was all quick game stuff, little play action. Sam made some nice throws, right? He finally had his first incompletion, I think, on his 13th attempt, and then he had an interception, which the ball was kind of hit. But the Giants' defensive line really, really whipped up on the Vikings' offensive line. And Dexter Lawrence is no slouch. And hello, old friend Brian Burns, right? Like, these are good players, right, that they've got. Yeah. But that's how the 49ers are going to blow up this game plan, is by taking advantage of the team that finished, I think, second to last in pass protection in week 1 by certain metrics. So again, like, Kevin O'Connell is a good offensive coach. He's going to squeeze the most amount that he can out of every quarterback. Sam Darnold played a good game, but the Giants are terrible, and this defense that's coming in here is not the New York Giants. And there's going to be chances for turnover-worthy plays, and the 49ers have to cash them in. That's how you get this game out of like, just get it out of the chance of anything crazy happening, in which now the Vikings are in it. Also, Hendricks is right. Jordan Addison got hurt in week 1. Jordan Addison may not play. So now, having said that, last season we're like, it's Kirk Cousins on primetime. Justin Jefferson's not playing. Well, yeah, like, so, I get that part, but yeah, they are down that guy, but they did upgrade the running game. Aaron Jones is really good. But yeah, Jordan Addison doesn't look like he's going to play. No TJ Hawkinson for this game either. That means the 49ers have to watch for Josh Oliver. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the 49ers offensive line takes down this blitzing attack that Brian Flores is just going to throw and throw and throw. He just does not stop.
I was a big fan of Josh Oliver coming out of San Jose State. He got drafted by the Ravens, obviously was behind some good tight ends. Then I think he tore his ACL. Obviously getting an opportunity. He's not someone like he's a good tight end in my opinion. He's just never gotten the opportunity. Gammon says you guys sleep on football shaped pillows. Probably maybe. If I wasn't married,
or just sleep on footballs.
Josh says I've watched Superbad about 50 times. I probably watched Superbad probably about 200 times.
I just watched it 3 days ago when I found out that Hulu had it. I was just thumbing through Hulu and I was like, we got ourselves a winner.
Yeah, I definitely watched it within like the last month or two. It's one that if I see it and I've run out of like movies to watch, like when I'm doing chores or something, I just throw on Superbad.
It's Superbad, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Wedding Crashers, like those movies that like
I'm like Sarah Marshall.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, 100%. Yeah, all those movies from that time period, Knocked Up, all those movies, they can get thrown on in a minute, in an instant, with no questions asked.
We really had that time frame was
greatest really comedies of all time, and I'm standing on that and fighting everybody.
Yeah, nothing has been able to come close to that era. It was phenomenal. But yeah, for sure. I would say this for the Vikings. I think based on what we saw last year, the biggest thing that we have going into this year is no Steve Wilks.
Right.
I think that's huge. I think, I wanted to see how that would bear out versus the Jets, and I feel like we've seen it. Like, we talked about that game against the Vikings last year on prime time as a game as they should have won. They should have came in and got it done. And it was one of the worst defensive performances I've seen from this defense in a long time. And it just was so out of ordinary with how they performed. And I think it just came down to what they were doing with Wilks. And now that Sorensen's back, is in the driver's seat, I think you're seeing this team play like we expected them to play. They're playing with that fire that we've come to know them for. It's the same guys pretty much. Obviously, there's been some changes up front. But if you go back to 2022, it was really similar to the group in 2023. What was the difference? It was who was calling the plays and the schemes that they were using. And I just couldn't wrap my head around. I'm not a defensive specialist, so I don't have the answers to why they're doing certain things. I just see it and I'm like, this isn't working. Why do they keep doing the same thing? And so now it feels like Sorensen's got them back to playing 49ers defense. And obviously you mentioned, we've talked about the defensive line and the group up front. I think they're going to have a big time opportunity to be able to get after Sam Darnold and a lot was made about Sam Darnold seeing ghosts when he was with the Jets, right? And it's kind of stuck with him for a big portion of his career. It was one of my knocks on him coming out of USC, is I could sense that was a part of his intangible quality as a quarterback. It was never a physical issue. It was always an intangible question that I had about him. And you could see in his performance against the Vikings, he's got the talent. The talent has never been his problem. It's just going out there and executing under duress, under fire. under unfavorable situations, adverse situations, and remaining confident and remaining strong in his ability. That's just where he's always kind of struggled. So obviously, if he's in the right situation, I think this is probably the best situation for Dan or Sam. I just called him Dan because if you think about it, they drafted a quarterback really high, but he's hurt. Yes, is he there potentially for the future? Yeah, but he's not getting his job taken. That pressure. That who else do they have?
Nick Mullins.
Oh, get out of here, man!
Nick Mullins.
His job's not getting taken.
Don't disrespect.
It's not disrespect.
Yeah.
I think that
no, he's not. You're right. If you're gonna roll with somebody, roll with Darnold.
Roll with Sam. Yeah. That's why they brought him in. So I do think that the 49ers have an opportunity to rattle him. And that's really what it comes down to. Can they get him into positions where they move him off his spot and they muddy up what he's seeing? And if you can do that, you neutralize the arm talent. You neutralize all those different types of things. So I think that's really how they get after him. I think they have all the answers.
Yeah, and the weird part about, last season's game, and I don't know why this is like ingrained in my mind so much, is like after the Kirk Cousins interception, you have the Christian McCaffrey fumble, and I believe it was the first play after that, Alexander Mattison runs for like 57 yards. And then he finishes with 10 yards for like 10 carries for the rest of the way. So that number looks skewed. Everyone's like, oh, you gave up this amount of yards, but it was like, yeah, it was all on one carry. And then you have that play at the half on the cover, zero blitz, and then you have you have the end of the game where, Brock, it felt like something was off because he was so good for the entire game. And then we find out that he had a concussion. Because the next week they already put it on there. Did that affect him during there? I don't know. Just a lot of weird things that happened in that game. The ball didn't bounce their way. You have missed field goals. You have, you don't take advantage of interceptions. You turn the ball over. You're literally just asking to lose, even if it's to Kirk Cousins on prime time. So yeah, again, early returns right now, again, the run defense looks stingy. They look like they know their run fits, and they look like they know exactly what offenses are trying to do to them. And again, just protect the football and go out there. And I don't really have too many worries about this game. It would take the 49ers to play similarly to how they did last year. But, as much as I say that, it just seems like it always happens in Minnesota, regardless of who the quarterback is, whether it's, Kirk Cousins or, that guy who stole all that money from those people in Mississippi. They just find a way to not play well. By the way, Brett Favre, give back the money, pal. We see you. Stop tweeting. Give back the money. Stop tweeting. Stop tweeting. Stop being on TV. Stop tweeting.
I actually haven't seen anything from him.
Give the money back.
Tweeting.
It's tweet a bunch of nonsense instead of giving the money back. Crazy.
That's funny. Gunzy says defense actually adjusted to tight man coverage right after Aaron picked apart our zone defense with Wilson. Prayed for times like this. Tight man coverage that didn't exist last year,
right? And adjustments, right? Like immediate adjustments, not like, oh, let's go through a half. Right. Let's go through let's see what happens for a half, and then we'll figure it out.
And then get yelled at by Kyle and Kyle change the scheme and what the hell, man? Well, this is what we're running in the second half.
Did you hear the nice little nugget that Kawakami sent out about why Kyle Shanahan let Kubiak call the plays?
Was it to watch the defense?
It was to listen to the play calls from Sorensen so you can get a better idea.
Damn, could you imagine your first time in that position and your boss is like, you know what? I'm going to do something I've never done in my career and give this thing up so that I can tap in and listen to absolutely every word that comes out of your mouth so I can make sure you're doing your job right.
I think he doesn't want to start. He doesn't want to have a start to the season like he did. Yeah. He just wants to get on the same page now. And I think, again, it
makes sense.
That's the evolution of a coach. That's you doing things differently. But so far, early returns are good. Again, I liked what I saw after that so let's face it. You look at Diamador Lenoir's, I think his numbers. I think he allowed 7 catches. He got targeted 10 times, right? But the catch that that Garrett Wilson made was literally, I don't know what Diamador Lenore could have done better on that slot fade, like, or almost like it's like that slot throw.
Hand was like literally
right,
in
dude.
his
He
chest, and he just
so
snatched it.
as a as a D-back, if you can't get your head around them, play the eyes, play the hands. When his hands go up, your hands go up. That's why you don't panic. Remember so Demo did everything right. Better throw, better catch. You tip your hat.
Great coverage.
Yeah, but it was cool to see on that side, Yadam, Lenore, and then Ward, all three of them. And I thought that was a really interesting way that they went and attacked that. They had Ward on Xavier Gibson. They had Yadam outside on Alan Lazard. And then they had Garrett Wilson on Lenore. And obviously, when you're choosing from those three, you're probably going to take your chances on Wilson against anybody. But I thought it was really, really interesting to see that kind of formation and the way Sorensen was allowing that to bunch up. It does feel like there aren't going to be many games where it's like, where are the adjustments? At least in week one, the adjustments came pretty quickly, and the run defense was absolutely legit from the first down to the last down.
Yeah, I'm really liking the Staley Sorensen combo so far. I think the returns.
Nope,
nice.
Can't say anything nice about Brandon Staley.
You know me. I'll pull out the sword to say something nice about one of our players.
Well, I was told Brandon Staley's a loser, and all of a sudden the 49ers are going to forget how to play football, and they're not going to have a good roster anymore. But
that was probably one of the biggest overreactions of the entire offseason.
Of all the things to overreact to, Brandon Staley was by far the thing that needed zero reaction, as opposed, or I mean, you could just be optimistic about it, but if you wanted to make it baseline, fine. But literally, like I said, when Anthony Lynn, the former Chargers coach, was made assistant head coach, nobody was like, "Oh, why are you bringing that loser over here?" I just don't get it.
Yeah. Selective outrage. Mm-hmm. It's probably because they saw the Raiders take it to the Chargers in one of the final moments, and we know it's recency bias. That was the last thing that happened.
And just because you're a bad head coach doesn't mean that you're a bad coordinator. I mean, Vic Fangio is not going to get a head coach job,
right? A bad position coach or things of that nature.
Vic Fangio is not going to get another head coaching job. Most likely, he's going to be a defensive coordinator the rest of his time, and I think that's fine.
1, 2. I also think we're over the days of kind of defensive-minded head coach. I think they're all looking for that offensive innovation, right? Yeah. So, Gammon says thoughts on the week 1 new special teams rule. What are your thoughts?
DJ Dallas, hello, touchdown return. That was pretty crazy. But kind of shocked not shocked. I think we all kind of thought that there was going to be a chance that Deebo Samuel was going to be back there trying to take these things. But I was of the mind, Brad, that it would be when the offense needed a jolt or the team needed a spark. Right? Like, let's say you're having one of those games where things are sluggish, maybe on offense, and you need like a play to kind of just boost everything up. Then you get Deebo, in there. But Deebo and Juice playing rock, paper, scissors to see who can, take the kick. I was a little shocked, especially with Garendo active. But when you think about it with Mason and Garendo only essentially being like the only running backs that were up for the game, then it kind of makes sense that you didn't see Garendo out there.
I really like the rule because I think they're looking at it as almost like an offensive play. Like
it's a run play.
There's more opportunity to actually build out like a blocking scheme and try to develop lanes and allow guys to make cuts. That's why I think Juice and Deebo are out there. So they're looking at it like this is a play that we can now score on. So let's go score on it. Let's take advantage of this new rule and play because we know, right? Sometimes games are decided by crucial special teams plays. You can do everything on the offensive, defensive side of the ball all game long. It could be a tight one, and the game is decided by a special teams play or a special teams error. So why not take advantage of that potential opportunity to maximize your opportunities with the ball in your hand? So I don't mind having your starters out there at all. I like it. I like the new rule. Yeah. I think it brings something new to the game that has typically been just, all right, let's get this over. I think they called it like a procedural play. Like it was just part of the process. Really didn't, we didn't see much action out of it. And I think how they've done it, I think it's still a work in progress, but I like where it's headed. I like the idea to make that an actually competitive play.
Yeah, it's hat on a hat blocking, 10 yards apart. Who's going to set the block? Who's going to find the hole? You're going to find that more inventive ways of having wedges and having guys go different ways, and that's all going to happen. But I love the idea of just 10 on 10 block, right? And then you have the kicker back there as the last line of defense, and if you break through all that, then you're going to blow past the kicker, whoever you are, and bringing the excitement back. And it's just it's starting to look more and more like a run play, like an offensive play, which I don't have a problem with. And again, we're in week 1. This is going to take a while, and it's going to take a while for everybody to figure out how to gain an advantage. But once anyone does, they find an advantage, everyone's going to copycat it, and everybody's going to have to go ahead and make their adjustments as they go along.
Yeah, and as we kind of wrap up our conversation on like 49er stuff, feel free to drop your fantasy football questions in the chat. Highly requested last week.
Shout out to Xavier Worthy, baby.
Yeah, we were asked, Brandon Aiyuk, Xavier Worthy. You were stronger on Xavier. I was more hesitant on Xavier. He comes out, scores 2 touchdowns
on 3 touches. That's efficiency.
3 touches. Who was the third guy? Do you remember? There was 3. We were asked.
It was Jackson Smith and Jiba.
Yeah, we were both out on him.
You probably got more points from Jackson Smith and Jiba, but it would shock you to know that Tyler Lockett led the team in targets and catches in week 1. Tyler Lockett routinely passed on in drafts because everybody wants to get on DK and JSN.
Right. And to be fair, he almost had a touchdown, that being Brandon Aiyuk. So close.
Yeah.
I needed that. That one killed me because it took away a Brock touchdown and it took away the Aiyuk touchdown. I probably have Aiyuk in like 80% of my leagues, and I have Purdy in probably half of my leagues because I had the Jimmy G injury foresight to be like, you know what? I just realized we're on the second quarterback and he always gets hurt. I should probably grab Brock Purdy. Not because I was some like foreseer into Brock Purdy having this insane insanity run that is never going to end. Because he's really good quarterback, but it got me Brock Purdy in a lot of different leagues just because of like thinking Jimmy's going to get hurt. It's just a matter of when. So let me get the backup. And boy, did that pay off.
It's called a speculative ad. And I love that. And I can already see it. Everyone's asking about Miami right now. And we don't know if Achane's going to play. Obviously, Mostert's out. Jalen Wright already.
Jeff Wilson season, baby.
All right. So look. So Schultz report says you're going to see Jalen Wright tonight. I think you would have seen that regardless, even if Achane plays, because if you guys watched the way that they used him, they threw him the football a ton. They couldn't run the football at all against Jacksonville. Shout out to Eric Armstead. Hello, buddy. I watched that game. Sack, and he was consistently blowing up the middle there. Shout out to old friend Eric Armstead. But I'm steering clear of this situation tonight for a few reasons.
Yeah.
If you want to pick up, Thursday's weird. Thursday's always weird. And if you want to pick up Jalen Wright to have him stashed on your bench and as a speculative ad to see, then I completely get that. But for me, it's week 2. You've probably drafted 3-4 running backs. You probably have a better option on your bench than trying to take a shot on Jalen Wright, who is very going to be boomer bust in this game, in my opinion. Like for me, I have Achane and James Conner. And Achane may not play today, but I'm looking down my bench. Who's on my bench? Oh, Chuba Hubbard, Jalen Warren, and Jordan Mason. Yeah, I'm going to run Jordan Mason out there, and I'm not even going to give a think to like going to pick up Jalen Wright or dropping one of those guys like for him just in case. I want to steer clear of this Thursday game. I don't know what it's going to be like, and Jeff Wilson's not going anywhere. Right now, I would try to look for better options. Now, I know Justin does DFS, and I know Justin is into the props. Now, that's completely different. That's completely different. But if we're talking about week 2 in fantasy, I have to believe that you have someone on your bench right now that you can probably plug and play for either Achane or Mostert that you can feel much better about, even if the return isn't going to be as big if Wright goes off tonight, which now that I'm saying all this, watch Wright just go absolutely bonkers tonight, you know?
That's typically my rule, is if I either hype or discredit someone, the reverse happens. So I try to actually work against myself. It's a pretty interesting theory. It's a dangerous one.
Mm.
But give me two under the radar waiver wire additions
Well,
from
I think
this.
I think he was talking about Yadam and Malik Collins and who they added. So I think but we can talk about that. I think but what he was talking about was the 49ers under the radar additions. Yeah, like I said, Jalen Wright's not going to be an under the radar guy that you can pick up right now at all or anything like that. I think one guy that's kind of sitting out there too much on waiver wires is Colby Parkinson at tight end. The route participation went crazy after Puka Nacua, who's going to be out for 4 or more games. Colby Parkinson could be someone if you're missing David Njoku, if you're a little bit scared about maybe a tight end that maybe let's say you punted on tight end. Colby Parkinson is going to be somebody who ran 87% of the routes. They paid money. That's somebody at tight end that I think you can kind of look to a little bit more and say, yeah, you know what? Maybe. That's the guy that I'm kind of looking at as well. And then obviously right now, if it's Thursday, September 12th, and you're looking on your waiver wire and Zach Charbonnet is there, I think it behooves you to go and pick him up because Kenneth Walker left game 1 with an oblique injury and has had trouble practicing. Although he said, "Hey, I'm gonna play," I think right away you could see Zach Charbonnet work into a great batch of touches. So I think Zach Charbonnet's got to be rostered. Colby Parkinson, if you're looking to replace, like Ariel says, Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, somebody that maybe you punted on the position. Colby Parkinson is somebody that shouldn't be on your waiver wires, especially with Puka Nacua out.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of sticking with mine is going to be Jordan Mason. No, I'm just kidding. Sticking with obviously with Puka Nacua going out, a lot of people are looking at that wide receiver room. You did have Demarcus Robinson take 92% of the snap share, which is solid. I'm low-key looking at Tyler Johnson, though. I really do like looking at the 7 targets, 5 receptions, only on a 65% snap share. And I think, obviously, with Puka Nacua going out, I think Tyler Johnson fits almost the mold of Puka a little bit better than Robinson. So Tyler Johnson was a guy that I was high on when he was with the Bucks as potentially being a guy who could replace Godwin. Now, we definitely had a falling out, but Tyler Johnson is a guy that I've always had my eye on in Dynasty. So he's a guy that I'm kind of looking at as a kind of under the radar ad. I want to get your thoughts on the Tank Bigsby situation.
Yes.
What do you think about Tank?
So I actually was going to add 3 more, but Tank's one of them. So everybody is on the Etienne thing, right?
Yeah.
He didn't catch any passes, but he ran the hell out of the football. Like, he looked great. And I think they're going to lean towards that a little bit more because Etienne's skill set leans a little bit more to pass catching. But, man, Tank is a guy that if he's on your bench and then you have – like, I always like if I have one roster spot at the end where I'm kind of just, like, throwing guys in and out. Like, it just doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not going to play them.
See who sticks.
So here it is. Here's the rule. And if you guys play Yahoo or any other league that allows you to drop guys from your bench even after they played, here's your rule. Here's what you do. Don't let your other league mates hear this. And if you're in a league with me, ignore this. But if you have that one roster spot in which it's usually a guy that you're not going to play, you find yourself just moving him in and out. Like, look at who are the handcuffs available for the 1:00 game. Whoever they are. Doesn't matter. Who's the biggest running back? If it's Breece Hall and who's his backup, throw him on your bench. Now, if nothing happens, you go to the 4:00 slate. Who's the next one? Bring him in. Like, drop that guy that you dropped 4 in the first slate of games.
That's a loophole right there.
That is a loophole, but it is so you don't have to go running to waivers when somebody gets hurt. Everybody went in my league after McCaffrey was ruled out. Everyone in my league went looking for Jordan Mason. Guess where Jordan Mason was? Safely stashed away under my Christmas tree at the end of my bench. So if you have a league in which they allow you to drop guys even after the game, I know ESPN doesn't allow you. I know Sleeper doesn't unless the rules are on. But in a Yahoo league, oh yeah, you need to be taking care of that loophole. The other guys that I wanted to mention, Greg Dortch. So everyone's in on Arizona and everyone's like, oh, Marvin Harrison. I don't know what happened with Marvin Harrison, but he ran this number is insane. I think there was about this. It's a 7,000 player, I guess, research pool, right? For how fast they ran. Marvin Harrison ranked in the 6,900 in play speed. Never got above 16 miles an hour.
It's out there running like an offensive lineman. What are we doing, man?
And couple that with the fact that Kyler Murray said, yeah, we'd like to get him the ball, but it's not my job. Bang. Right?
Yeah.
Michael Wilson scores the touchdown. Greg Dortch scores. Greg Dortch is the guy that you see a little bit more of. And obviously, Trey McBride is somebody who's going to pick it up. But Greg Dortch is definitely somebody I'm looking at as well, too. And the last one is probably going to be either Jaleel McLaughlin or if he's not rostered on your team right now, Brandon Cooks. I know Brandon Cooks isn't a sexy name and he's a lot older, but CD is going to have his matchup that everybody's going to be looking at him. Brandon Cooks is going to have his weeks. He's not a bad guy to put at the end of your bench. And I'm not going to lie to you, man. It was kind of hurtful to watch Javonte Williams struggle against that Seattle defense, man, because Denver is not good. But Jaleel McLaughlin actually catches passes. Those are going to be the guys that I'm looking at. Brad, you want to know how desperate I am? In two QB leagues, some of them I'm not even starting another quarterback. I'm just starting a player because I don't have. I am spending fab bucks on Malik Willis.
Oh.
Yeah,
boy,
that's
rough. I've got a league where I got Jordan Love, Puka Nacua, and someone else that got hurt as like my top 3 guys. Brutal.
Yeah,
pain.
So for me, I was just starting Josh Allen and just putting whoever I had Brian Robinson as my super flex because my other quarterbacks are like Andy Dalton and like Nick Mullins, and nobody wants to trade me a second quarterback because my team is loaded. Like I'm absolutely, I won the championship the last 3 years, so I spent money on Malik Willis just to have an extra quarterback. But I run that league, but nobody ever wants to trade with me, even when I'm like, yo, I will send you a pick, like I'll send you 2 picks. Can I get a second quarterback? Because I have Josh Allen and Pittman and Stephon Diggs and Debo and McCaffrey and like my team is absolutely loaded. I win the league every single year. Derrick Henry. I win this league every single year, but they won't ever trade with me because they don't want to help me.
I get it. I've been there. Some other names that I like. You mentioned Dortch. Dortch is a Kyler Murray handcuff. Without Kyler Murray, he's absolutely useless, but Kyler loves him. So he is someone you don't want to sleep on, but also Michael Wilson. I have Michael Wilson in a bunch of leagues.
Me too.
I know he had a touchdown. He might not get as many targets as Dortch, but he does have high touchdown upside, in my opinion, because he's kind of a bigger bodied wide receiver. You could throw more of those kind of back shoulder corner fades to him in those types of scenarios. So that's a guy I really liked. You did mention Jaleel McLaughlin because they just had their rookie go down on IR, right? Yes. Emmanuel Wilson's a guy that I think you should pick up if you have a spot.
Josh Jacobs did not practice.
He did not.
I think it was yesterday he didn't practice. But the problem is yes, you'll technically, if you do pick him up, you'll have the starter. But what does this Green Bay offense look like with Malik Willis? It's
a good point, but I think
it'll be a volume play.
I think the person who struggles more is Josh Jacobs because he doesn't look as shifty as Emmanuel Wilson does.
Yeah.
And so Emmanuel Wilson might find more success without Jordan Love because Josh Jacobs, like, I don't know if you got that sense from that first game. I don't know if it was the footing. I mean, as the game went on, Jacobs got better, but early on it was like, oh, Wilson looks like the better back.
Yeah, and he was hitting the outside and getting to the edges better, and it felt like
he was getting the space better.
Right, it just felt like Jacobs was just kind of plodding along, and that's not like what they had him for.
Running into the back of his offensive lineman over and over again. I was like, damn, dude, what happened? Like,
one more I got, and this was probably the game that I wanted to watch the most. Off the All 22 before the Niners game, was Indianapolis and Houston. Adonai Mitchell, and you're gonna look at it.
I thought you were gonna go somewhere else.
What, Josh Downs?
Alec Pierce.
Oh, no. I think he's down on the run when Josh Downs comes back. Like, yeah, he caught that long pass. That's cool. But if you're gonna go off that and you're gonna see Alec Pierce do that, you're gonna run to the waiver wire and say, "Oh my God, give me the guy who scored a 60-yard touchdown." Give me the guy that was creating separation and was open and was targeted 6 times and only caught the ball once because Richardson missed him a little. And if Adani catches 1 or 2 of those, he's down the field for a touchdown.
I saw some of those open ones.
Right. So Adani Mitchell, again, put him on your bench before everybody goes to run for him in week 2. Adani Mitchell is definitely somebody who's going to make a big deal. But I think they love Josh Downs. And I think they're going to be fine if they're going.
So does Anthony Richardson. He loves.
Right.
They came in together.
Right. So I think
got a lot of Downs stock for sure.
So I think the pecking order goes Pittman, Adani, Downs, and Pierce is going to be sprinkled in. But I think I think absolutely it's got to be Adani Mitchell, because if one of those catches goes for a touchdown, we're not even having this conversation. You've got to find a way to get him before everyone else gets hip to it.
Feels like Pittman is your touchdown upside. Feels like Downs is your PPR upside, and then you have under the radar, like you play him in the right matchup with Mitchell, and then Pierce. Yeah, to your point, I didn't even think that Downs wasn't playing.
He's practicing today, but we'll see.
I didn't have him fired up in any of my leagues, so he wasn't.
No. I mean, he was out. He didn't play week 1, so that's the thing. It's like when you're reacting to week 1, you're like, oh, this is the pecking order. Yeah, but Downs didn't play, and if Mitchell catches 1 or 2 of those passes, his day looks completely different. So like when I was going through that game, Mitchell was open. Mitchell was getting himself open, and Richardson was looking for him, just didn't connect. It's again. Are you going to look at the result and say, oh, he's not going to be good? Or are you trying to pick out the breakout player before? Yes, Mitchell only had 5 targets. He got missed on 4 of them. He was wide open. Targets are what you want, but what you want is a guy who's getting open. And Adani Mitchell was consistently open. It's all over the tape. And I still don't understand why people let him slide that far.
That's true. Great Fox says the RB room should be called Christian McMason.
Yeah, how do we get Garendo in there?
That's true. How do we
add it? Patrick Taylor. Yeah, that the Patrick Taylor erasure is crazy.
Good stuff. Let's see. But yeah, man. So we got our first fantasy segment. I like that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I love doing that.
Yeah, you're a freaking wealth of knowledge when it comes to fantasy, and as you should be. You are the resident fantasy expert, I would say.
No, I just have too much time on my hands, and I'm just in too many leagues. Even though I've cut the leagues down into the teens now.
Really?
Yes, I'm in the teens. If it's not for money, I'm not in it.
That's good. I think that's how it should be.
I
feel like when you're not in leagues for money, people just fade out of the league so easily. Like they just stop setting their lineups and they stop.
Right. And that's the other thing too. It's like people, like when it's free, like they'll just get out of it. And Hendrick says Jalen McMillan's another name you guys haven't said. 83% snap count. I don't know how anybody let Jalen McMillan not get drafted in your league, but if he's on your waiver wire, yeah. But the reason I didn't say him is because he needs to be rostered.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at that offense and he's the 3rd wide receiver there, and he obviously won that job outright. And obviously
Trey Palmer.
Yeah. And Jalen McMillan should, if you're in a league that Jalen McMillan didn't get drafted, like with the last few draft picks, invite me to your league.
He has, like, I loved him coming out of Washington. Like that whole wide receiver core in Washington was phenomenal. Polk, obviously. And so McMillan, he was just kind of flew under the radar. And I really, obviously, Dunze, and we know about him.
He's hurt.
But McMillan, he's has the opportunity to be a long-term wide receiver too in this league.
Yeah.
And if he gets the opportunity to be a 1, we'll see. But I really like McMillan a lot. But yeah, my redraft leagues, actually all my leagues, dude, it was a rough week for me. I don't know. It sounds like you had a good week. I had a rough one across a dynasty redraft, completely different rosters. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. Apparently, didn't tip my way last week.
I won my redraft league because the player that I was facing had Christian McCaffrey and I had Jordan Mason already. So I was just like, oh well, I won, cool. Like it's like one of those moments. So I was like, oh neat. The one that I'm most proud of is the Scott Fishbowl one, man. So Scott Fishbowl obviously is the analyst, tournament. There's so many divisions, all that stuff. They have the wonky, scoring. I believe it's 1.75 per reception for tight ends. Again, 3 points per extra point for all the kickers. You could put kickers in your flex position. So some people have multiple kickers rostered. But
really?
Yeah.
So they're the opposite of like I'm at the time like in the where I'm at with fantasy redraft is like I don't want even defense or kicker at all. I just want
any league that I'm in has no kicker that I run. If I run it, then we're taking out defense and kicker and we're gonna put football players on the field and we're gonna make you draft football players. Yeah. But I am in leagues that I don't run and you have to have kickers. But that league also you get 2 matchups every week, meaning the person you're playing and the league median. So let's say the league median, everybody's scoring 200. The league median is 180, meaning like the middle ground. If you lose to somebody, but you score 181, you get a win. So you can be 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2 every week in that league. And not only did I like win my matchup, I had the second most points, so I blew out the median. So 2-0. Shout out to Jake Moody though.
EH wants to talk about trading for Jacoby Myers. It feels
the report was a 7th round pick.
Yeah, and it was also before that was when the 49ers were trying to come up with something if they traded Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, it was a 7th round pick, and the Raiders said no. No big deal.
Sense. I think Jacoby Myers is better than a 7th.
I mean,
not a ton more, but
no. But if I'm the Raiders, I'm not giving him away for a 7th.
Neither am I. That's easy. Like no.
Yeah, I don't blame the 49ers for asking.
If you actually pay attention to what the Raiders think of Jacoby Myers, they love Jacoby, including Devontae. He speaks highly of Jacoby.
And what's crazy is that was McDaniels that wanted him over from the Patriots. Like he wanted to bring him over, and he still has staying power.
Good picks.
Right. Well, that was one of like his guys that he was like, "Oh, I'm bringing him with me." So yeah, I mean, yeah. I think the timing of the article probably spooked some people as like, oh, like what are they still looking? No, this was like when they were trying to figure things out was what Silver was saying, and it was the 7th rounder. And
the way the information's coming out, Jay Glazer is coming through with all
that was a crazy story.
Yeah, of how he had to stop the trade, and so then it's more stories about who they were actually trying to trade for. I guarantee they called anyone who they thought they could get a receiver for a value. That's just really what it comes down to.
Pretty crazy that Kyle just ran upstairs and was like, put down that phone. Put down that
phone. Obviously, people didn't love the returns, what they saw week 1, but it's just a reminder. It's week 1. The first 4 weeks of the season are glorified preseason for the starters and no more than Brandon Aiyuk. So just got to give him some time. But good talk today on State of the Franchise. I think we covered everything pretty darn well. We'll see what the status is of Christian McCaffrey for this game for the Vikings. It's really
tomorrow's your big day.
Yeah, that's the biggest story around the 49ers right now is CMC going to play? Everyone wants to know. So that's really it. Other than that, looks like they're getting healthier and hopefully they get their first win since 92.
And practice reports, Christian McCaffrey limited. Yitzhak Gross Models and D. Winters back. Everybody seems to be moving in the right direction. I think we got to find out about Aaron Banks, but if Spencer Burford plays the way that he did in his 16 snaps against the Jets, he absolutely depleted Jermaine Johnson. Oh my God, on that one play,
dude.
Why would you do that? That man was mad.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about Burford, man. When he gets moving, he can hit you very hard.
He's been waiting to hit somebody in a real NFL game since February because of everything that's happened.
Yeah. And he definitely rocked Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine was just like, oh, look, there's Burford. Cool. Like,
yeah.
I think it shook him so hard because it like hit him and he's like, oh,
yeah,
and just fell backwards.
And Jermaine Johnson's a big boy.
He is. He's very athletic. All right, guys. Appreciate everyone for tapping in. Make sure you like and subscribe to Aponte's channel. All that good stuff. We'll be back next week for State of the Franchise. This was a weird week. We're obviously live on Thursday. just because when we have a Monday, it kind of kicks the content back a little bit.
Short week too.
Yeah, short week too. Appreciate everyone tapping in. Grab your cookies on the way out. We're out of here for now. Peace. That's Jason Aponte. I'm Brad Graham. We're going to get into it all right now.